It's time to start. So I'm going to hand over to Catherine Mason. Just to remind people, this is a Computer Art Society talk. My name's Sean Clark. I'm the chair of the Computer Art Society. And tonight's proceedings will be overseen by Catherine Mason, who many of you may know, and she's a member of the CAS committee as well. So I'll be around to handle any technical problems and to manage the questions at the end. So over to you, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Sean. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's event. This is organized, as Sean said, by the Computer Arts Society. For those of you who don't know, the Computer Arts Society, or CAS for short, was founded in 1968, and it was the first practitioner-led organization with a focus specifically on creative computing. It was founded by like-minded people who saw that digital computing was fast becoming one of, if not the, most important thing that had ever happened to humanity. And there's an early leaflet from 1969 that CAS produced that I especially like. And in there it says the aims of the society are to foster methods and systems that suit people and to resist the tendency to make people fit systems. So this carries on to this day, the Computer Arts Society, and we host a range of talks, events, and exhibitions. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can also sign up to our email list. So tonight we're very honored to be hosting a talk by Anika Meier. Anika is very famous in AI art circles, but for those of you who don't know her, she is a writer and curator based in Berlin, and she's an expert in digital art. And I really don't know anyone who knows more about NFTs and the art market than Anika. So she teaches at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna, and she's also the co-founder of The Second Guest, which is a curatorial collective based in Berlin and Los Angeles that explores the relationship between humans and technology. The Second Guest recently held an exhibition called Body Anxiety in the Age of AI, and this featured artists who questioned photographic truth. Anika was also on the curation board of Art Blocks and on the advisory board of the House of Electronic Art in Basel, and she built Expanded Art. She also creates work herself, and one of these was used as the publicity material for this talk. You may have seen Technology Portraits. So tonight's talk subverts the question from 1971 that Linda Nochlin asked in her essay, "Why are there no great women artists?" And in this essay, Linda Nochlin pointed out that in the field of art history, the white Western male viewpoint was unconsciously accepted as the only viewpoint. And she argued that this was inadequate on moral and ethical grounds, as well as being elitist. And it also revealed the failure of history in general to take account of unacknowledged value systems, power hierarchies, and what we might term the patriarchy. So this essay is very much ahead of its time in the early 1970s, but Nochlin had to point out that one of the reasons we didn't know why there were many women artists, we didn't know their names, was not because women were incapable of greatness, but rather it was due to the historical and societal systems in place that were oppressive and discouraging to those who were not born white, middle class, and male. Institutions and educational systems made it impossible for women to achieve success on the same footing as men. For example, she gives the example that in the 18th and 19th centuries, the unavailability of nude models to women, art students, meant that it was impossible for women to learn anatomy because they weren't allowed in on the life drawing classes with nude models. So I'm just giving you the very briefest of summaries of this essay, and I would like you to encourage you to look it up yourself. It's in this book. There's also other essays by Linda Nochlin in this book, and it's available on the Internet Archive for free, or you can usually get a copy relatively cheaply secondhand. So tonight, Anika is going to answer the question or ask the question, why are there so many great women artists in the age of AI? And the technologies we have today, like AI and blockchain, along with the online art world, have enabled women and non-binary artists to gain visibility and influence. So we are now seeing women who historically have been somewhat left out of the history of computer art gaining ground. So one of the questions that I'm interested in is, for example, why does this moment represent a lasting shift in art history? Or is it just going to be a kind of box ticking culture? Linda Nochlin called it token equality in her essay that we seem to have prevalent at the moment. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing Anika's take on this and how and why women artists are shaping the emerging field of AI art. So do put any of your own questions or observations or comments in the chat, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Anika's going to speak for about 45 minutes, and then we hope to hear from some of you. So I can hand over now to you, Anika. Thank you very much, and welcome to the Computer Art Society.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Jean. And I've seen Paul Brown in the audience, who was so kind to invite me. It's an honor to be invited by the Computer Art Society, by such a prestigious organization. I was invited, I think, a year ago, and half a year ago, I had to decide about the title. And when you're invited, then you're sometimes a bit overconfident, right? Or like are excited about an idea you have. So I thought it might be a great idea to explore this question. And I was really looking forward to this day. And when I finally had to think about what I really would like to present, it was a very humbling experience, because there are many angles to this topic. And I used to write a column for, yeah, maybe Germany's biggest art magazine for many, many years. And every time I wrote a column, then I got comments from people, but you should have. And why didn't you? And I'm very well aware that I might disappoint you with this, with my angle. So let's see how it goes. And yeah, why are there so many great women artists in the age of AI? Let's get started and let's take a look at the past. Catherine was so kind and has already shown the book. I have the 50th anniversary edition also at home, and Linda wrote another essay, I think like 30 years later. And then she also looked back at what she wrote in 1971, and she explained her approach to the topic. And as Catherine also just summed up, it was very much about the male view on things, the male definition of greatness, male gatekeepers, institution. It was about access women didn't have, and things have changed. Yeah, but Linda Nochlin said there's still a lot of work to do, and I think we all agree that there is a lot more that can change. But yeah, let's continue looking at the past. Some of you might have already read the memoir by Lynn Hershner-Leeson, who is very likely the most important women artist working with art and technology. I also had the honor to speak with her recently for Numero Berlin and discuss the book with her. And it was, it's depressing to read about it. And it's depressing hearing her speak about it, but she, looking back, isn't depressed. She understands what happened, and I think she also very much acknowledges what has changed. And some of you who, the ones of you who follow her on Instagram and Facebook, also very likely know that she's very active. And I think that's one thing that has changed, right? The access. She can now share herself, but what she remembers in her memoir as woman artist in the 70s and so on, you were basically invisible. Unless you were in a relationship with a famous artist who was represented by a gallery as a woman, you were dismissed and treated as invisible. And if you went or tried to speak to a gallery, they assumed that you were the secretary or the assistant of a male artist. So basically, she had no chance, or other women artists as well, they had no chance to have access to the art market. Yeah, no gallery representation, no shows, and so on and so on. And then I guess all of you know the famous saying from the, thoughts from the guerrilla girls, that women usually are acknowledged when they're 80, and that was sort of true for her. But also Lynn knew how to help herself. And I guess that's something that women artists still have to do today. You have to know how to help yourself. So what Lynn did, she invented 3 male art critics. I don't know how she did it. She really invented 3 male art critics who then pitched stories to different art magazines, and they somehow also mentioned someone called Lynn Hirsch-Melissen, and that's how she got her first gallery show, and so on and so on. That's also something that she advised. Yeah, I discussed a few things with her. My last conversation with her was very long, and she gave me the advice, you always have to stand your ground. And so I was very grateful that she gave me this advice, because that's, I guess, as a woman artist, woman, whatever, curator, everything, it's immensely important. And another woman artist who works with art and technology is Claudia Hart, the American artist based in New York. She just turned 70. She, she's a good friend of mine, and we joked, well, she has her first institutional retrospective age 70, so she's basically an early bird with these things. And that her career now finally kicks off, right? And so she created, this is an exclusive first sort of like online premiere of this new body of work from Claudia Hart. It's Gifts, and it's Note to Self. She turned 70, and that's what she also created for herself, but for others. And she, one of or two of these I share here. One says rejection is okay, and the other one says keep smiling. And when I speak with Lynn, when I spoke with Lynn and when I speak with Claudia, I have very much the impression that this is what made them continue. So let's jump to the present. The one thing that I really wanted to discuss at the very beginning is what means great today. As we've heard before, great before was very much from what male gatekeepers said is great, access to institutions and so on. Someone else decided, but what is great today? And the hard thing, I guess, or the also fun thing, working on anything, a presentation, an exhibition, teaching, everything, you find things last minute online, right? So I finished yesterday, but then, I spent, as every day, a bit of time online today, and then I found more great things. And I guess you also saw what happened yesterday, the auction records. I mean, yeah, yesterday happened a lot of great things that I had to add to this talk. So yeah, first of all, I shared that I'm going to give that talk. And then, you might know Julia Voss. She's a very well-known scholar and journalist and art critic. She used to work at the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, and she commented, sounds great. On my Instagram post. I really love that. Or, on like today, we are so fast saying, great, sounds great, can't wait, applause, hearts, right? Like, it's so easy to say something is great. So what does great actually mean? And then speaking of the auction records, I need to move something out of the way. Speaking of auction records, and thinking about what grade could be today, or what criteria could be today. I had this post from Kenny Schachter. He's everything: art critic, writer, curator, collector, lecturer. He commented on someone celebrating the auction record of the Gustav Klimt sale, 236 million. He commented, art history doesn't happen in sales rooms. You'll know why I integrated this into my presentation when I continue, but I think that's a very important statement, and a statement that is important to think about. So wait, that was too fast. Yeah, so speaking about great, what does it actually mean, or how do we find great? Is it about sales? Is it about followers? Is it about having access or being shown in art fairs? Is it about institutional shows and museums and private museums? Is it about getting recognition from art critics, being mentioned in reviews, being interviewed by media outlets and so on? Or is it curators, just working with artists? Today we also not only have museum shows and art fairs, but we also have NFT releases and so on and so on. So what actually could be a signifier of someone being a great artist today? And the solution seems to be quite simple, right? Because for Linda Nochlin, when she wrote about it, it was basically about access and being visible, being seen, being talked about. That's also the problem and challenge that Lynn Hirschman-Leeson and Claudia Hart, for example, face, and many other women artists. Today we have social media, we have NFTs. Artists can sell directly. When NFTs came up, it was talked about, yeah, artists can finally don't need gatekeepers anymore, meaning curators, everybody else connected to sales and helping with sales, making sales possible. And now we have AI, which seems to be the shortcut to being a great artist, because you just let ChatGPT do the job. Could be really simple. Go on social media, you sell NFTs, you use AI, and then you're a great artist, no matter what gender, right? Sounds very simple. So yeah, and then Catherine already mentioned that I also sometimes create art, but not because I think I'm an artist, but because with AI you actually, and I'm a writer and curator, and I work with language, and now in the age of AI you actually can create images with AI, and you can support an idea or a concept or something you would like to say. You can support that with images. And at some point, when there was the conversation when the Christie's auction, the first big AI auction happened, and everybody commented on it and had something to say about it, it reminded me, because people were like, yeah, that's theft and so on and so on. Like, it was really, to me, it was really surprising how strongly people reacted to it, because it was an auction in an auction house, and an auction house basically sells what they can make money with, right? So it's not something that should have that significance from my perspective. And then I was reminded somehow of the technology portraits by Cindy Sherman, and how women artists always were at the forefront using new technologies, because they haven't been men haven't already, shaped or put their, how would you say that in English? I don't know, haven't already, are not the dominant ones, right? So working with new technologies, women can still leave a mark on the new medium. And Cindy Sherman, for example, has done that with photography. And she worked with historical paintings. And then I thought about, okay, she worked with photography, let's work with AI, and let's do the same now with AI that she has done with photography, and recreate these masterpieces before created by male artists. And as you can see, this is my take on Richard Prince. And by the way, I was doing this when I visited my parents. I was lying in bed. It was in the middle of the night. I had this crazy idea, and just for a few nights when I was visiting my parents, I created this full body of work. And then, I thought, well, I think it wasn't that easy for Cindy Sherman creating that body of work. So this is not moving. Now I need to put this away again. Yeah, and this is what I added as a text. I released these pieces as NFTs on the Tezos blockchain, on the marketplace object. Yeah, and I really thought about what has changed with this new medium, and what are the questions we need to ask. For example, what is the role of the artist? What are authorship and creativity? What is individuality? And also, what is a masterpiece? Is it about the idea? Is it about the execution? Is it about the historical knowledge you have? Is it about that you define a new medium, or that you invent a new aesthetics, or create a movement, and so on and so on? Because as I've just mentioned, I was lying in bed, had my iPhone in my hand, and then worked with language as I usually do, but suddenly I got images. And then I asked myself, well, if it sounds easy, right? But then on the other hand, is it really that easy? Because I studied art history, and back in the days, it was also not that easy. Not saying that it's easier today, but it was like maybe not as fast because I had to go to a library, I had to carry books home, I had to buy books and so on and so on. Today, if I write a text, I can also, and if I don't remember something, or I'm like, okay, which book would I need to check? Then I quickly can ask ChatGPT, right? Back then in the early 2000s when I studied, I really needed to go to a library. And I remember how many books I I carried home, and then I asked my parents to bring back to the library with the car because it was, yeah. So I asked myself, is it okay to speak about great art in the age of AI? Also looking at conversations that happen, and this is something. And then today I was wondering, was it a good idea that I've been online so much, or was it a bad idea? But anyway, I found quite a few things that are now added to this talk. And I found this, it just popped up on my timeline. I was really not looking for it. It's a post by Wolfgang Tillmans. And as you all know, Paris Photo just took place last week in Paris. Paris, it's the biggest photography fair. It's the 3rd year that they have a digital sector. I was surprised when I read reviews online and more traditional art magazines that some totally left out the digital sector. If you wouldn't know, reading some reviews, you wouldn't have known that there was a very big digital sector and that AI was a big topic. No matter what, Wolfgang Tillmans has done a book signing, and at the end of the book signing, he has been asked about AI. And then he just shared what he gave as an answer at the end of this talk during the Q&A. He published this on his Instagram, and he says, AI, unfortunately, is not a choice. It is pushed upon us with great speed and in violence almost. So yeah, he really pushes back on AI, and wait, I need to move this over here. Yeah, back in the days, he had no idea that today this new art, AI art, is of course also done with prompts and language, as I've just mentioned. So it sounds super easy, right? And he says they only use old pictures, and language means AI. So there's no room for the unexpected, for what happens by chance and comes into the mind in an intuitive way. And I shared this on my Instagram, and Boris Eldagsen, he didn't comment bullshit, but he said something. He commented something very close to it. And Boris Eldagsen is one of the leading experts when it comes to AI. He is the artist who rejected the Sony World Photography Award that was awarded to him for an artwork he created with AI. It was not photography. So he, by rejecting the award, wanted to make the statement that photography is not AI and vice versa. And yeah, so working with AI is definitely not that simple. And I brought in a few more headlines or articles that very strongly critique AI. And this is an article that has been published in The Guardian. A mass theft, thousands of artists call for AI art auction to be cancelled, which I found really interesting. Because when I think about this topic, and when I think about studying art history and teaching at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna at the digital art department, and working with digital art students, and now running the Object Labs residency, also working with emerging artists, the first thing that one learns when one studies art history, right? You learn about the history of art. And then when you work with artists, no matter what, as a lecturer, as a teacher, as a curator, the question always is, how does this body of work relates to the history of art? So it's basically always knowing the history of arts, same as a scholar, as a curator, and so on. And in order to be able to create meaningful work, to create meaningful exhibitions, you need to be aware of the history of art. And I would say AI is just a bit faster because it's a machine learning about this history. As I've just mentioned, I had to carry books around. The AI doesn't have to carry books around. It just, they are on the internet. It's not that I simplified it, but I guess it's clear what I'm trying to say. Yeah, this one might be my favorite headline. It's from Spike. This is an interview that came out when Hito Steyerl's book Medium Hot was published, and it says, "Who prompted all this shit?" I can highly recommend reading this interview. It's entertaining. Of course, she's right with many things that she says, but then also, which chance do artists actually have? I mean, we can't just be like, pretend AI doesn't exist, same as, Wolfgang Tillmans. If you're Wolfgang Tillmans, maybe you can say, don't use it, I have my camera. If you have, a retrospective at the Centre Pompidou and are one of the top 5 artists, photographers in the world, same as if you're Hito Steierland, basically, your job is critiquing new technologies, and, being critical and looking, at these technologies, not just as an artist, but as someone who warns society, right? So it's basically her job to make these statements. But as an artist, which choice do you actually have? As a woman artist, which choice do you actually have? You cannot not use social media, right? You cannot not use AI. You cannot not, I mean, you have a choice. You don't have to sell NFTs, right? Same as you don't have to, as an artist, work with a gallery and make your work available on the market. You still have the choice if you want to go the path on the art market, or if you are more interested in an institutional career. But yeah, so she was also asked if AI could be of any use for artists. And then she says, artists have successfully used toilets before, so why not large language models? And it just comes to my mind that we had the auction record yesterday with a toilet, right? So also that's just a funny coincidence. It's really brilliant that these auction records happened yesterday. So yeah, I mean, I still would love to ask her what she thinks, what kind of a choice artists do actually have. And this is just, I just found it funny. Can brain rot ever be considered art? I mean, if we can define Maurizio Cattelan's banana as art, why not? It's already Italian brain rot all the way. I guess it's clear that it's her job to be that critical in media. Then this is by Kate Crawford and has been published in eFlux. And this text, basically the result of this essay, because it was published around the time when I had to come up with what I would like to do next at the university. And now I'm going to do a class and discuss with the students if AI slop can actually be art, and if artists can actually create AI slop and say it's art, and or if one can just use AI slop from the internet as a sort of ready-made and say it's art. I will not read out these this thing is in the way, these quotes, but I can highly recommend to read this this essay. It's also extremely difficult, and it's extremely critical. And every time I read these extremely critical texts, I wonder, what choice do artists have? What choice do curators have these days? If you don't use AI and other people do it, I mean, you might be left behind. And then here's an outtake from the interview that I've done with Lynn Hirschner-Leeson that isn't published yet, but I've received the layout a few days ago. She worked with ChatGPT early on, because Lynn Hirschner-Leeson always uses new technologies and things when they come up. And she just said to me, she used it very early on. She didn't find it interesting. She, said a bit more when we were speaking with each other. But she was open to basically using it again, and she was confident that today she would get different results and it might be actually interesting. But for her, because she always wants to use things early on, she already moved on to the next topic. That's also something when you're a pioneer, you're always early, right? So you're not working with certain technologies and so on when everybody's doing so. So yeah, it might be also worth considering if one wants to be a pioneer, right? Because it's basically never your time. And if you're a woman artist and a pioneer, that might be the worst combination ever, because it's never your time, right? So let's take a look at the art market. And I think I have like 15 or 20 more minutes. So the art market, now it gets a bit frustrating. And then I explained why I think there are many great women artists in the age of AI. So I think this for women artists working with AI has been one of the best news this year. Sasha Stiles, poet, artist researcher, writer, curator, has a solo show at the Museum of Modern Art. And it's on one of those, it's on the big screen in the lobby where also Rafik Anadol had his show, and then also Raphael Rosendahl. So I think that's a big achievement. And as I've mentioned, she's a poet and an artist working with AI. And then I interviewed her for Monopol, and we've also known each other since many, many years. I've known her when she minted her first NFTs and tried to sell them for $20. And I think for like 2 years or so, nobody was interested in buying her work, not even for $20. And today she sells, she was part of an exhibition I curated. And I think I recommended a higher price tag than she initially wanted to go for. And the piece is sold for that price. So I can always recommend to women artists, and just go for the higher price. You don't have to sell fast, but you will sell for the higher price. If you've made yourself a name, just do it and don't underprice your work. And the one thing that she said to me in the interview, and she sells, she's usually brave and just puts a price tag on and is not afraid not to sell immediately. But compared to her male colleagues, maybe someone like Rafik Anadol, who sells for more than 1 million unique pieces, she's nowhere near that. I think she sells for like 10, 20K, maybe a bit higher if it's bigger pieces, but nowhere near the 1 million. Then I checked a few marketplaces today, and you can check them any day. It's basically always only male artists. There might be a few exceptions, but that's basically impossible, because only the male artists sell for those prices. That's versus all male artists: Lava Labs, Nofro, Beeple, Dimitri Cherniak, Matt Kane, Matt Laurier. Here more male artists. Top sales this week, also all male artists. Then I think this announcement changed a bit the direction of my talk. I had something else in mind as I posted on social media. So Art Basel, the biggest art fair in the world, announced 010, a new sector that's part of Art Basel Miami. That will be part of Art Basel Miami Beach for the first time this December. Then I did something that male curators, male artists, male collectors don't like. I looked at it and I counted. I always do that. When I see panels, I always do that. When I'm invited to moderate a male-only panel, I say either you invite another woman, or I will not moderate the panel. I will not be the only woman, and I will not be the one moderating. I always count. I counted, and the result is it's 18 artists in total, and only 4 women if you count Lu Yang as non-binary. I think that's not a great result, right? Because it's nowhere near 50-50, but it's Art Basel. It's about selling, right? It's not about who creates the best work. Not saying that these are not interesting artists. In no way am I saying that. But when it comes to great art and great sales, it's not that many women artists who are in the top league, right? I'm very sure it's going to be a great fair, but not that many women artists included. And then also, but that would be a topic for another talk. The Art Basel speaks about digital art in this case, right? But especially as the members of the Computer Art Society know, artists creating digital art, working with computers, have been represented by galleries. They have been part of art fairs. Samia Halabi, for example, I remember seeing at Art Basel in Basel a few years ago, very prominently presented. So what we see today at Art Basel and what this sector actually presents, I would say, let's call it networked digital art, let's call it wallet art. But what's really new here is the strong network, the art offered for sale on the blockchain, that it's really networked collecting and so on. And it's not just digital art. Then yeah, all the auction records, of course, are held by men. 69 million by Beeple. Then CryptoPunks have been created by 2 men, 24 million, and then Puck. I mean, we don't know who Puck is, but it's very likely a man. And then the Goose, also Dmitry Cherniak, another male artist. Then I remember that, I mean, I asked ChatGPT about, because I was not quite sure. I mean, these I knew, but I was not quite sure if I remember correctly sales from women artists. And then ChatGPT remembered me that Grimes sold NFTs on Nifty Gateway for 6 million. And I remember that was very early on. I think that was either end of 2021 or spring 2022. It was around 6 million on Nifty Gateway. And then, a sale by IX Shells for, I think, 1 or 2 million was the highest selling female NFT artist. So, I mean, that's quite a big difference. 69 million, 91, 23, and then the only women artist anywhere close is 1 or 2 million. And I think one of the records from Itzel are connected to a donation or something like that, or a fundraiser. So it's not even money that went to her, but that has been connected to some other cause. Then I didn't dare. I was thinking about if I should it, but I just said artists today. I didn't dare to write great women artists today, but maybe I should have been brave and done that. Okay, let's just pretend I was brave enough to write great women artists today. And then this is also something that happened yesterday. I was putting together this presentation. I checked Twitter. If you are active in the NFT space, you constantly open Twitter because that's just where all the news pop up. Elon Musk would like us to call it X. I guess most of us reject that. Then this comes up. $125,000 for this painting of something that shows a lot of cameras. I know the artist usually sells for very high, and he does a lot of things with security cameras. $125,000. Male artist, sort of anonymous. I don't remember having ever seen his face, though I also messaged because we were trying to work together, but so far it hasn't worked out. And then I put next to it Una, an artist who actually really works about the topic of surveillance, and in a way that it is about the time, that it's relevant for society, that it's relevant not only for women, but it's relevant for all of us. She's done a performance in the London Underground, and by the way, and I always say that when I speak about the body of work titled Dear David, when I saw the work for the first time, I thought it has been created with AI. I really was 100% sure. And when Margaret Murphy, who is also here, she's my co-founder of The Second Guest, we invited Una to take part in the exhibition Body Anxiety in the Age of AI. I was like, no, come on, that's AI. And she was like, nope. She has done a performance. So Una performed in the London Underground. Una is an anonymous artist based on, we don't know where. I mean, I know where, but she doesn't say where. She says I think she just turned 3 or 4. I actually forgot. But yeah, she always wears a mask. She always wears sunglasses that you can't see her face, that it's just really an anonymous artist, and that people really have an experience. And she also has an experience. And when people communicate with her off and online, because they don't see a face, they don't see eyes. So is she really treated like a human being? Is she treated like any other artist would be treated? So she performed in the London Underground because what she found out, you can actually, and I didn't know that, maybe because I don't live in London, but you can actually request the material from the London Underground if you I think you have to fill out a form, and then you have to tell them what you wore, where you have been, time, and so on and so on. You have to be very precise, but then they have to hand out that video footage to you, and you get it in a way that everything is blurred, but you are like in this rectangle thingy. And so she performs, and the person on the other end who has to then go through all the material and find Una, he's called David. So she is working on a big body of work, and currently she's working on the 4th letter to David. Yeah, it's about surveillance, intimacy, agency. Yeah, for example, it's a gift to always be the center of attention. So that statements of her. And yeah, it's basically about agency over her image. Where does it begin and where does it end? And yeah, here's just one statement from her. I don't really want to fight, but that doesn't mean I just want to make art about pretty shapes, which sounded a bit like generative art we're going to see at 010 at Art Basel. Yeah. So yeah, and I found it interesting that $125,000 versus 10,000 TES, which is around $5,000 for a whole release of Dear David, and that's already high sales for a female artist. Yeah. If you're interested, you can follow Una on Twitter and also on Instagram. And the interesting thing is she's shadow banned because she works with the body and sometimes yeah, mention things like that might be, detected by the algorithm and then are censored. It's not that easy to find her. So yeah, that can also happen if you're a woman artist working with your body and being critical about censorship, surveillance, and so on, that you get shadow banned if you are too explicit with what you're showing. Then I think Jess Tucker is also here. Jess Tucker is an artist I also work with and have just exhibited and have done an interview with. And that's also one of the main reasons why I would like to point out that there's many great women artists working in the age of AI, because there's actually something at stake. And that came to my mind. I've curated a lot of exhibitions around the time when Instagram was very popular, and a lot of women artists were very active on the app and have done performances. And I just have, this is the book that came with the first exhibition that I've curated. It was called Virtual Normality, the Female Gaze in the Age of the Internet. That's Abida Biström. And yeah, a lot of young women artists who have been active on social media had to deal with censorship. They just wanted to show themselves, like they wanted to be seen. I mean, as you also can see in this image, right? And back then, that was around, I think, 2015, 17, 18. Yeah, then they have been criticized that this is not feminism. It's not really relevant because it's not about, changing society. It's not about everybody, just basically a generation that would like to take selfies and share images of themselves. But I think what has been overlooked a lot in this discussion, that finally women artists were able, with their smartphone, with an app on the smartphone, to share images of themselves, to have a voice, to have not, they were not dependent on, again, gatekeepers, journalists, and so on, right? So they could build up their audience, their following, and many of them have very successfully done that. And at some point, yeah, it was clear, okay, there's this app, Instagram, there's censorship, that's a fact, we cannot do much about it. And then at some point artists accepted it, and then not much happened. And because I think, when was it, around 2020, some of them kept working, doing performances and so on, but the attention wasn't there anymore. And then NFTs happened. And then when was it? I think in 2023 or 2024, I saw these artists being active again. Avida Biström, Sarah Friend suddenly worked with her body. And I was like, wait, what's going on there? Leah Schrager was active again. And I was like, wait, there's something happening. why are they active again? What do they have to fight for or against now? And I understood that it's about deepfakes, that women are not, that this time around is not censorship and not their image being taken down, but that someone else, could basically do things with their image. And this is something that quite a few women artists working with AI create work about, like Jess Tucker, she's subverting deepfake porn. So what happens when an artist trains AI on her own face and feeds it private photos, deepfake tools, and beach scenes? So she basically turns these technologies on herself and exposes the mechanics behind AI-driven surveillance in deepfake culture, and basically shows, like back then, artists have shown what happens when you show yourself on social media in a way that is not accepted, let's say beauty standards, and now Jess Tucker basically exposes what can happen when you're also just maybe active as a woman or on the internet. Yeah, here I wrote down, it was really in the year 2024. I noticed that Avida, Leah Schroeger, and Sarah Friend have become active again. And as I've said, it wasn't about censorship, but this time around deepfakes. And Leah Schroeger has, I think that's from 2014 or 2015, found a way to create a selfie and show her body in a way that Instagram wouldn't censor it, right? So you can see, as she called it, infinity selfie. So she found a solution that the image doesn't get censored by Instagram. Then Avida Byström, Swedish artist and model. And I was a bit embarrassed that I didn't understand what she was doing, because Avida, for I think it was even a few months, was very active on Twitter. Not so much on Instagram, but that happened on Twitter, and was sharing very explicit photos of herself. And also, it was clear that she was doing something on a platform that was similar to OnlyFans. And then at some point, she revealed on Instagram, when she announced her book In the Clouds, she announced that it has been a performance. So Avida Byström tried to be faster than anybody else, and she basically undressed herself via the app Undress and shared these images on social media. So she basically created deepfakes of herself, which in some cases looked very realistic. Margaret and I back then also discussed what's going on, and maybe we should have taken a closer look, a second guess. But it was not clear to us what was happening. And then, that also reminded me of Lynn Hirschman-Leeson, because she always found ways, and women artists often have to find ways to protect themselves or to find solutions. And Sarah Friend has created an artwork about reclaiming basically not ownership, but agency over her image. So she sold NFTs on the blockchain. The body of work or artwork is called Prompt Baby. And instead of, as artists usually do, right, you sell an artwork which actually shows an image, right? So, but she sold a blank image. It was just black. And then collectors needed to get in touch with her and give her a prompt. And so then Sarah Friend created these images if she approved the prompt. And I asked her whether all of the prompts were okay, and she said, all of them except one, which had nothing to do with her body, but with Trump. So that's that. This is, I think, one of the, and this is also, Prompt Baby has been widely exhibited also at, for example, Hack Basel, but also recently at Art Cologne, so also in a commercial context. And I think it's one of the most important artworks in the age of AI. And then, I really don't think of myself as an artist. I'm more a writer working with language, and then with AI, you simply get images, right? This is an image I created, and I called it Katie. And when, I think that was last year, right? when the Netflix series Adolescence came out, it was about, Katie was murdered by Jamie, but the whole Netflix series was only about the murderer, 13-year-old Jamie, and his family and how they suffer, but not about Katie and the family. I think they only mentioned her name once or twice, and I couldn't even remember the name. So what I've done was then I gave Katie a face, and I also added her to an exhibition, that artwork to an exhibition, because I think it's important to not forget that there was actually a female victim. And this is something that you can do with AI and language. You don't have to be an artist. You can, and it's something that Wolfgang Tillmans mentioned, which I found surprising, that this is not something that has been seen in a positive light, because it's actually positive that with language one can create images. And then thanks to Paul Brown, who I've seen here and who was so kind to invite me to this talk. This is one of the wildest things I think that happened last year. Or was it this year? One day, Paul messaged me. I was like, "Hey, do you know my friends VNS Matrix? Would you like me to connect you with them?" And I was like, "Sure, I know them." But it never occurred to me, because they're, I think for so many curators, women artists, and so on, heroes, it never occurred to me that I could just send them an email. So Paul was so kind to really connect me with them. And so we've started working together. I've done also an interview with Juliana Pierce. She came to see the exhibition in Berlin. We spoke about we spoke a lot about these topics. The interview will be out, I think, next month. It's very long. And I asked her, because they in the 90s also coined the term cyberfeminism, which was also, about digital capitalism, all these things that we see today, right? A very male-dominated scene. It was about technological advancements. It was about utopia, an idea by artists that a new technology could make something, could make things happen, could make the world a better place, and so on and so on. And then it didn't really happen. So I just asked her about her view, and she said that cyberfeminism is more important than ever, and that there's things that need to be done and taken care of, and that cyberfeminism is just one of those things that could be a solution. And thank you, and very much looking forward to your questions.
Oh, thank you, Anika. That is amazing. You've raised so many things. I don't even know where to start, but it occurs to me that when you said there were very many angles to this question, you've really shown us all the different angles that there are. It's not an easy question. These aren't easy, there's no real easy answers. But I particularly was fascinated by your examples of the art market, with the sales. And that really, to me, that just sort of, that's the kind of bottom line in a way, isn't it? And that shows us that we still need to do a huge amount of work. There's still a huge amount of work to be done there. So we do have some questions down here.
Hi, thank you. And thank you, Anika, for your talk. Fascinating, really fascinating subject. And I was really interested to hear you talk about your own experience and the way you see the world, and especially about the art market, as Catherine said. I suppose I'm interested in the way that women see the world in general, and how they react and how they use the different technologies that come forward and that are available. And I've been looking at the way that males and females over many years have used technology, and I'm really fascinated to know what you think about women and AI in particular. And I'm thinking about generative AI and all the kinds of things, the different systems that are available, because they're, obviously they're not all LLMs, and then they are very different in what they can do, certainly in terms of image generation and sound. And I wondered if you have any thoughts about whether women make art through around AI in ways that are distinctive. And I mean distinctive from not just men, not just the males, but also distinctive from the way art is made in general? I mean, and two thoughts about, do they challenge the AI narrative in particular ways? And do they bring out certain subjects in relation to through AI that are not found in the conventional art world? So, I mean, that's two. I realize that's a big question, but I'd be interested to have your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, that's a very good question. Yeah, when it comes to women artists, non-binary artists working with AI, as I've just mentioned, it's a lot about deepfakes, right? Because there's something at stake for women that is not so much at stake for men, right? So I'm not sure if I remember the quote by Anne Hirsch correctly, but Anne Hirsch, also women artist who worked very early on the internet and about performance art, and was thinking about what it means to be a woman online. She basically said, if you are as a woman, go on the internet and show your body, you are immediately in conversation with porn, right? And I guess that's something that affects women, but that doesn't so much affect men. And when I look at yeah, especially the NFT space where I come from, and where we, Margaret and I, are active a lot, when it comes to yeah, male artists working with AI. It's about technology and working with the latest tools and what the tool can do, and, you know, testing how realistic can it be, where they can, you know, break something. It's just more yeah, like boys being excited about a new toy, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but just in yeah, how men react to new technologies. And yeah, when one thinks about that statement from Anne Hirsch, right? Being a woman on the internet is different from being a man on the internet. That's also just something, if I say something on Twitter, it's usually the community reacts differently to it than when a man does it. For example, if someone tweets something and I ask a simple question, then I'm seen as the elitist, whatever, critical, aggressive person. If a man just also simply asks a question, then it's fine. And, you know, and I just seen that. And when I saw that happened a few days ago, I really had to, you know, switch off the phone, because I was like, what? The woman collector like really backs up when the guy asks question, and when I ask just a simple question because I'm interested, then I'm aggressive just because I'm a woman. And I think that's just the reality. And it's, you know, it's like there's one way you go through the world, but then, you know, you are also, you know, going through the internet. I don't know, I'm not a native speaker, I don't know if that translates well in English, but I guess you know what I mean, right? So that's just another reality that exists, right? And where we yeah, if you work with technology, if you are a curator working with digital art, if you're an artist, you just very likely spend more time online than offline. It's a wonderful quote. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I think.
Okay, thank you. No, that's good. That's great. I'll leave it to other people. There are lots of things I'd love to ask you, but I'm sure there are lots of people who
shoot me
questions.
An email.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also have Jess Tucker here. We have Franziska Ostermann here. We have Margaret Murphy here. We have Leah Schrager here. We have some of the greatest women artists working with AI with us in the room.
Okay,
so
great.
If anyone has a question to any of them, they're here.
Catherine, are you able to see the questions? I think the next one was from a Heather Tim. Can you see that one?
Yes, I've got something here. How do you see the trans and non-binary artists in relation to representation in digital and AI art? Is there a specific trans or non-binary experience that you've been able to identify, Anika? Or yeah, I think that's the question.
Where is that question? I don't even see it.
Yeah. B. Bogart is asking, do you see the trans and non-binary artists? I mean, is there a specific examples that you worked with, or what is the relationship between that specific experience and digital and AI art?
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but when we look at something like aesthetics, right? Or just also maybe why, yeah, male artists versus women, trans, non-binary artists are more successful is that they have their own aesthetics, right? Or they just show bodies, and then it's something else again, right? And that's also, for example, when it comes to then collecting. Many male collectors then say, I can't collect this because with NFTs, everybody sees what you own and what you collected, right? So that's, for example, also one reason why women artists might not sell that well, right? And I sometimes have to say that when Margaret and I curate exhibitions, and then when we curate the exhibition, it's always one thing, and then in most cases we also offer NFTs then later for sale. That the artists make money and that we also get, sort of a fee. And then we also say, yeah, but this might be tricky now. It has to be in the exhibition, but if you now release this as NFTs on the blockchain, it's a lot about the body, and
People might not necessarily want to buy that as a collector.
yes, because everybody sees it, right? And that's a funny thing, because in the traditional art world, there's collectors who just collect nudes, right? Well, you have a nude, you go to this collector, you straight know where you have to go because that collector might want to buy it. So that's interesting when it comes to now NFTs and digital art. Yeah.
Margaret M. would like to know, do women artists need to be more like male artists, and should they?
That's Margaret Murphy, my co-curator and co-founder of the second guest. She just wants me to say, yeah, women artists need to be more like male artists, but not when it comes to the art they create, but more like, I think that's something that Margaret and I both experience, and maybe I a bit more, because I, as I've just mentioned, wrote that column for Monopole magazine, right? It's usually male artists who reach out to me and have reached out to me. And with male artists, it's also something like totally out of the blue, you just open your whatever app, and then like sometimes it really happened that a male artist was like, okay, I'm ready for my solo show. When can you curate my solo show? And I'm not like, well, what? Yeah, I've just, and then it's these digital artists who, yeah, I've experimented like for the first time with, I don't know what, printing something, painting something. Nah, you can't paint, and whatever. But then, and then they're like, yeah, I feel like I'm ready for my first solo show. And can you help me with that? And then I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what I respond. Like, I just try to get myself out of that conversation, or not even have that conversation happening. But yeah, like,
it was very interesting. You mentioned earlier on about women artists have to know how to help themselves, and you always have to stand your ground. I think those were two really interesting and good pieces of advice.
And when you do that, expect a backlash, but just, you have to get through it.
Okay, someone else is saying, I found that working outside of the gallery and commerce system, such as the Instagram, is not liked by the art world. Do you find this with the NFTs? So it's not a traditional route in the art world, and it's not liked by the traditional art world.
I guess 4 weeks ago, I might have given a different answer than I give today, because suddenly, we have, here's my dog. My dog always wonders why I sit in front of this at my desk and then constantly speak. He doesn't understand. 4 weeks ago, I might really have given a different answer. But now Art Basel has this new sector, 010, and it's, Beeple and a lot of X-Copy. And they might produce again high sales numbers, right? So, and then also AZ, but it's not only that my answer is different because of Art Basel, but also because I've just curated Art on Tezos in Berlin, which was a big event that included 12 exhibitors like Bitforums and galleries like Office Impart, but then also the community and so on and so on. And it was in Berlin, and yeah, so many traditional curators and so on. They were like, oh, oh, wait, there's still this NFT thing going on? Well, I thought it was just hype. Oh, you guys are still selling. Yeah, yeah. And because the traditional art world is sort of like falling apart a bit, right? And not doing well. I mean, we all heard that many gallery closes. Okay, let's be honest, it's not that bad because people just at some point are 60 and might not, if you're then 60, you not just retire, but you have to whatever, maybe close down your gallery. So it's maybe not that dramatic because it's just a generational shift. But yeah, no, I think, but like with everything, you just, have to stand your ground and just keep going, I think. Or also, with many artists I've become friends with, or, just you meet every day on social media. Some of them you see, for the first year, like people like, oh, what is she doing? Second year, gets invited to the first shows, has the first sales, first reviews come in, then, second, third year, oh, it's getting serious now, right? And then, oh, suddenly she's in MoMA. How did that happen, right? And yeah, and also Sasha Stiles is a wonderful example. She just, no matter what people said about her work, she's a poet. She worked with AI early on. She had that technology, right? An AI that is her collaborator. And she invented cursive binary, and she just kept going no matter what people said because she believed in what she was doing. And
So a sense of determination becomes important.
yeah, just keep going.
Do you see more women getting involved in collecting and supporting work by AI artists, or is it just mostly male? Are there more female collectors coming on board, do you think?
I mean, that has been the big news by Art Basel, right? That women collectors are sort of like, more present. I don't see that yet in the NFT space, but that's also, I think, because the NFT space is highly about trading, taking risks, and that's, I think, not a very female trait. I think women, because they usually are responsible for the family, are very are not that, are not that like, okay, let's trade, let's flip, let's do this and that. But yes, there's quite a few women collectors in the NFT space, but there definitely could be more.
Okay. This same person also says, do you think the gender of collectors influences the kind of art that gets made, promoted, recognized?
I mean, that's the interesting part. I speak about the NFT space now. Now it might be different in the traditional art world. And what I found really interesting is that I thought women artists would then support other women artists, let's say creating work about deepfake porn, would collect Jess Tucker and all of that, right? But no, they suddenly start liking the really crypto bro art that's very glitchy, very male, very, I don't know, I don't even have words for that. It's definitely interesting, right? What's happening there, and it's just not what I would like, what I personally like, but it's historically, of course, interesting. But that was the most interesting learning for me, to see that they do not go and support women artists, but then also, and that might also be because, it's not that you go to a dinner. Yeah, you also go to a dinner, but most of the things happen on Twitter, right? And then you can just, be in conversation and have fun with everybody, and then you can do memes, and it's just like, are you in that little corner on the schoolyard with the 5 people, or do you speak about the things everybody's talking about? And that's just basically, I think, what's happening here. So also largely, that so much of what's happening happens online. It's just, then group building and so on and so on. So the one thing, and that's also why Margaret and I started the Second Guest, because we really wanted to bring women and non-binary artists together and support them, so each other, right? And really not to collect, but also just, a retweet can help.
Yeah, make a community.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something big. You don't have to invest money. You don't have to put your money into other artists. If you have the funds, feel free to do it. But like really a retweet, everything helps.
Yes. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, we've also got something here. Do you think AI art can be intuitive, like Wolfgang Tillman is saying?
Yeah, I don't understand what Wolfgang really meant, because I mean, you can just do the same things with AI that you can do, I don't know what, with your camera.
Yeah, it's like a tool, isn't it? It's just a different type of tool.
It doesn't, yeah, to be honest, that quote, what he said didn't make much sense to me.
It's all right if you're very wealthy, famous, everybody knows your name, you're in all the museums, isn't it? You can say whatever you like. But all right,
And it
I think
reminded
owning,
me, just one thing, I don't know if you
yeah.
remember that when, you know, the iPhone was a thing, and then selfies, and everybody was taking food photos. And then, you know, one big artist after the other, Jürgen Teller, Wolfgang Tillmans, who else, like all these big names went through the media and produced headlines by saying, yeah, something negative about iPhones, selfies, people taking food photos, and so on and so on. And now it happens with AI. If you're a big artist and you say something critical about AI, and that's also why it was important for me to show these quotes and to show these headlines, that then produces headlines. If you suddenly use AI, it doesn't produce headlines, right? Not saying that.
And maybe there's a sense of threat there too. Do you think there's a sense of threat from some of these established male figures?
I think there's not, for Wolfgang Tillmans, I can't imagine, but I think maybe a sort of, you know, and I guess that's also what artists who worked early on with computers then experienced, right? You're early with something, you spend so much time learning, for example, how to code, learning how to use a computer. And then, or, you know, artists like Mario Klingemann working with AI, or, you know, Lynn Hirschman Leeson told me whenever she wanted to work with a new technology, she had to figure out herself how it works every time. And now you can just go on any forum, you can just ask ChatGPT, how does it work? I get an air fryer, I want to get an air fryer, and then I just, you know, ask ChatGPT, is it a great idea? And then I know how an air fryer works, right? Or it's so simple now, but you know, you really needed to invest time, same as me investing time in learning about the history of art. Now it's just like so much faster, and I think it's not that it feels like a threat, but I think it can be frustrating.
Yes, yeah.
And then it's they, you know, because they also know how to build, as you've just said it so beautifully, build community. The younger generations might know better how to, you know, build community and how to get a following fast on social media, and that way they might get press faster, and so on and so on. So it's just also about that.
Maureen Blayhout, sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name correct, probably Maureen. I think owning the next tools to create art and language is almost a vital necessity for women more than men. Do you think that too? Vital for that women learn about the new tools, and it's a necessity.
Historically, it has been, right? Historically, it definitely has been. If you look at the feminist avant-garde and the book that Gabriele Shaw has written, and also the exhibition that toured, yes, historically it has been that case. I'm not so sure if that's still the case, but as I've just, you know, tried to point out, when women are online, they are there with their body, with their gender, and everything connected to it. So it's just like that's the same like with Instagram. I found it so interesting when they've done when there were then, you know, surveys saying, okay, men, like that was around, when was it, 2019 or so, you know, social media influence on Instagram's male, you know, they can do everything. They can do politics, sports, gaming, like basically everything, while women just basically were confined. I think that's not the best word in English, but whatever. Did stuff at home, right? In their, and that was interesting, right? Basically, male influencer could do whatever they wanted, and women, things you can do at home.
Or like fashion, or did something like fashion or clothes or hairstyles or makeup, or
yeah, but and they can't do like everything, politics and so on and so on. It's just like very about basically the looks and beauty and
Linda Candy has said, yes, owning tools and designing and making the tools too. So we need to get more artists in general involved in designing these new tools, I think, and particularly differing voices. Anybody else? Any last questions? I think you can raise your hand. If you press down here, there is a thing that says raise your hand somewhere, or you can type in the chat. We've got time for one more, I think, and then we'll probably close. It's gone about 7:20 now. Last call. Okay, well, I think then maybe I'll just close it there and say thank you so much, Anika. It was really, really fascinating, and it's raised so many important issues. I mean, I feel like we almost need to have another session because we've just got we learned a lot of little things we need to get stuck in, I think, on some of these issues. But it was really fascinating. You gave us a wonderful example, introduction to a lot of this, some artists that I'd heard of before and some that I hadn't heard of before. So thank you very much for that. And thank you to all the audience for being here. There will be a recording of this, so do look out for that. It'll be announced on the socials, and you can watch parts that maybe you missed. So thank you once again, Anika, and I hope to see many more of you at the next Computer Arts Society event. Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.